FPM Podcast. This is a supporting piece for the Flow Point Method. If you haven't seen, the Flow Point Method is an online training program specifically designed for water skiers, which includes nutrition, fitness, water ski technique, mindset, and a bunch of other stuff to basically create an all-in-one holistic program for water skiers by water skiers so that you can be a better version of yourself on the water, ski longer, ski better, ski more consistent, and all the rest of the things that we're looking for as a skier. So the secondary goal of the Flow Point Method is to shed light on some of the misinformation that's circling or swirling rather in the water ski world. There's a lot of misinformation out there as far as technical aspects of how skiing works. And so what we hope to do with this podcast is by talking to professional skiers, talking to amateur skiers, talking to fitness folks, we hope to tease out some of the fundamentals of water skiing. The goal is short segments with interesting people where we get to talk to them, and you can come away as a skier, a passionate skier, with a nugget, something that you didn't know beforehand, or a new perspective on an old idea that maybe allows you to go out and on that day find a feeling that you didn't that you had never found before. That's the goal. We're in the business of finding a new feeling, a better feeling on our ski, because we know that if you feel the same on the ski, you're going to get the same result. So we know to be better skiers, to be more consistent skiers, to be able to do this longer, we need to find a new feeling. And that's what we're in the business of doing, is teasing out the details so that each episode brings you something that hopefully helps you find a new feeling on your ski. So just to remind you, this is not Flow Point TV. This is something completely different. This is the Flow Point Method Podcast. This is aimed at skiers, passionate, dedicated, hungry skiers who are looking for anything that will allow them to become better skiers. And what I think that anything is the right understanding, the right information, and the right perspective or conception of how skiing works. Because if you understand how skiing works, and we can make it as simple as possible, then you will be a better skier, and you will find your own way to be a better skier. You won't be copying and pasting what other people have told you onto your own style or your own approach to skiing. This is about giving you the tools to find your own path to being a better skier, a better version of yourself on the water, and a better human being off the water. So that's what we hope to do. The first episode here is with two-time world champion Will Asher. So let's get right to it. Let's assume that there are three main fundamentals to all of slalom skiing. Okay, let's just assume that these three main things are the most important three. What in your opinion is one, maybe, of those three that is just a fundamental of water skiing, that if you don't have this or you're not working on it, you're deteriorating?
I think body position has to kind of be number one, and taking like a macro look at body position, not getting down to the nitty gritty, but just, are you stacked, whatever that means. That's a buzzword that people like to use, so we'll use it.
Yeah.
Is you aligned? Is your body in the best position to potentially take the maximum amount of load? Not to say we want to get that load, but the goal should be that your body is so efficient that even if that maximum load comes on, you can take it. But really, you want to be operating at a range of like 40% of your maximum, just because you're so loaded or so aligned within the body.
So the better alignment you have, the easier it is to handle whatever specific load you're applying, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, that my big shift came from, like weightlifting or Olympic lifting, that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's all technique for the amount of weight you can lift. When you see like 120 pound people lifting double what you can lift at 180 something pounds, you're like, okay, that tells you that it's probably not all strength. Some of it, but and I see that a lot with skiing.
Within body position, okay, I'd like to get to a couple things, but first and foremost, you just sparked an idea that I think is not talked about in skiing. If you look at what you just said, there's women who can Olympic lift. They're 120 pound women, and they can put 220 pounds over their head.
Yeah.
I think part of it's strength, a big part of it's technique, but also a big part of it's being able to put your body in a shape to be able to load through that shape.
Yeah.
And like you are, in my opinion, one of the masters at being able to be in a compromised shape or a not the best shape, but still be able to manage the situation. Now that's not the goal, but you're able to manage a unforeseen obstacle, whether it's a roller or a wind chop, or something weird happens where you're out of position, but you can manage it because your body, you've built it into a body that can be in different shapes and not freak out or not seize up.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried a lot of different ways of skiing throughout my career. From when I was a kid, my uncle called me Rubber Man because every time I skied, I had a different style. Yeah. That was probably my way of, not getting stuck into something that's maybe not optimum. But I mean, if I look back at the way I've skied for, the last 5 years versus 10 years ago, I don't really recognize myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure how that transitions. It's probably just being aware and, having good people around you to kind of lead in a direction that's more efficient. And that seems to be the name of the game. Like, how can you get through the pass with the least amount of effort? And
body position.
And, we did some stuff recently with heart rates. And if you can get through the end of the pass, still maintaining a relatively low heart rate, then that tells you you're working quite efficiently.
Yeah.
So I know they did some stuff at the Hilltop Pro-Am recently. And
yeah.
I mean, you can tell there's a lot of stress on the body.
Yeah.
People are working out there. It's only 16:08 or 16:95 seconds, but you're seeing people get their heart rate up to the 190s.
Yeah.
Quite frequently.
I know Jamie Bowles was apparently 190 something, and she was questioning the number. She is young. I know. I don't think for over 40 crew that's going to be a reality. But
no.
But something you said sparked an idea. So this idea of body position, I think it is probably the most fundamental thing. Like if your body's in a compromised position, you can't accept the loads from the boat or through your feet from the ski. However, there's different indications for me of whether you're using body position properly or not. So one indication would be, and I know ultimately max speed, we'll get to this later, but being as fast as possible is not the ultimate goal.
No. So
I've heard this from a lot of people. I said this for years, that getting to the wakes as quick as possible should be your goal. We know that that's not your goal. That should not be your goal. However, for a given amount of acceleration or a given amount of top speed, let's say 85K, you want to reach 85 kilometers per hour by center line. The person who can do that with less line load, given the same body weight, is doing it more efficiently with more efficient body position.
Right.
Because they're not requiring as much load from the boat to get them propelled to that same speed at center line. And what I thought was interesting was, well, you mentioned Hilltop. You had, I think Freddie Winter had one of the higher loads, or the highest load maybe. I don't know if it was specifically at the same pass, but he had not the highest speed.
Yeah.
He was pretty close, but he wasn't the highest speed. And then you had Adam Cord, who had the second highest load, and he was like one of the slowest top speed skiers. So here he is, Adam Cord's got the highest load, but he's got one of the lower speeds from what this is secondhand information. I didn't watch the webcast. I was there, so I should be careful what I say. But if that's true,
I watched it, so I can fact check. I did watch it.
But if that's true,
I'm following you.
High load, low maximum speed, then there's a lot of inefficiency there, and I feel like that inefficiency gets shown, expressed as forces in the body and wear and tear over time and potential mistakes, because you're going from a high load situation to getting rebounded into the boat or not being able to manage your outbound swing or any of that.
I think that's something you kind of hit on. It's like, okay, why is body position important? Why do we keep talking about speed and load? And it's how, because it's like for every action there's an opposite equal reaction. So if you go hard here, the chances are you're not going to be able to then maintain or go hard where you actually need to go hard. So it's all coming down to how do you create the appropriate amount of speed, load to be able to stay on your optimum pass. So and then it also, it circles back into like the stress and the heart rate stuff of how people work. But if you're overworking or over energized, the chance of you then being able to stay on the optimum pass are pretty low.
Yes.
You know, you should be able to keep. It should never feel like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
every once in a while, you got to go for it, but you got to save it. You got to save it for when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just like a Hail Mary, got to get to 3 or something, you know. It's not necessarily and we've seen it with some of the testing we're doing, and if the speed gets above a certain level, that's basically means you're missing the pass.
So what does that indicate to you? I know we're still on body position, and I don't want to stray from that too much, but if you put too much energy into the system, you get too much speed through center line, you see that correlating to not your best scores. Why do you think that is, personally?
I think because at that point you're kind of out of control. So you've lost control of the swing, or you know, the rhythm of the line or the path that you're taking, and you end up turning into a slingshot essentially. Yep. So you're loading so much. There's only so much distance you can keep your body away from the boat. Like that's pretty fixed. You know, we're on a handle, we're on a rope. It's going to stretch, you know, marginal amounts. We're not talking very much. Yep. So it's the more you stay on the line of that path, the better chance you have essentially of running the pass. So if you think about it, if you come off the wakes, and the old saying used to be you got to ski 20 feet in front of the buoy. But for me, that's telling me I'm taking a path that's straight out off the wakes. Yeah. And at a certain point, you've got to rejoin with a handle, and to do that, you're going to have to get slinkied back into it in a way. You know, it's like stretching the bungee, and then super fast, you're going to get shot at the buoy. Yeah. Whereas, you know, some of the stuff we're talking about now is just staying more in connection, staying on, you know, a similar swing arc as the handle until it's time to get off it and reach and take the buoy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a key thing, I think. Understanding that, for me, it's that idea of a rhythm. I feel like if you're trying to push somebody on a swing, a kid, and you push them to a certain height, and you're trying to reach that certain height every time, and that's the rhythm, and they naturally get to that height, and then they're naturally ready to come back when they get to that height. But if suddenly then you put more energy in the system, you get them going faster through the bottom, they're going to swing higher than you would like. And when you're trying to get to that initial point and turn or start to come back down, but you're still swinging up, or in the ski example, you're still swinging higher on the boat when the buoy's there. Yeah. Now you're compounding things, and you can't get back on rhythm without a serious effort.
Exactly. I mean, it really is as simple as we are a weight on a swing. And if you break it down as simply as that, as going back to when you're a kid on the playground and your dad's pushing you, it's like, if to get the higher, you got to get more energy on the way down, and then you free them up and let them go. Yeah. Come back, catch them, and throw them again. You gain height that way. And that's really the only place you can make that height back up. But we talk about, you know, width in the course, stuff like that, but we don't necessarily talk about height on the boat, and you know, the most optimum way to get height on the boat. Yeah. And that kind of speaks back to, you know, we always talk about body position and
so on body position, how do you approach it? I know it's been ingrained since childhood, but if you were to like have an actionable, like something you think about, something you try to feel, what is it? Is it a body part? Is it a body position? Like how would you approach trying to improve body position? I know it depends on the skier, but do you focus on where your feet are? Do you focus on where the load is, the handle is compared to your body? Do you focus on something you're doing with your body?
Yeah. I think a big one is space relative to handle. So if just for a quick measure, it's like if you're skiing and the handle's by your knees, or the handles, you know, you're super squatted, right? Like the only way you can actually get to your knees is to either bend at the waist or round at the shoulders. Yeah. But if you're you were the master of them. Yeah. And you did it well, but you weren't there all the time. Like you hit on those things, and you got the photo, and then you kind of move back into a nice strong position. So for me, it's like the big indicator for me is where is my handle, and I really try and have it as high as I can on my body. And that just tells me that if I'm proud of my chest, I have good posture, my hips are through, my core's engaged, the handle is essentially gonna be higher on my body.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of people say, you got to lower the handle to get it close to your body. And I kind of look at it a little bit differently. I'm like, well, if you lift the handle up, you're going to create more space to get the body to the handle.
So when you say lift the handle, are you meaning like physically, like get your body extended and then a position so that the handle's naturally close? Or are you actually trying to lift or do a bicep curl?
Yeah, so it's, okay, I'll try and stand up and we're going to present this.
Yeah,
so it's,
yeah.
I mean, essentially it's a cable, right? You're not actually going to be able to lift or drop it without manipulating your body.
Yes.
So essentially by lowering the handle, you're bringing everything forward towards the body.
Okay.
So if you're in a position and you're relaxed and you actually lift the handle, essentially you're going to move everything up into place. Right? I just see a lot of people, they're like, okay, I got to get the handle close to my body. So you push it down, you see it jam it on their hips. Whereas essentially you just bring your shoulders further forward and then making it harder to then get into that position.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's different than what I've thought, but I got to think about that for a bit because I think it could help a lot of people. I've always thought of, people's shoulders come forward when they tend to kind of control the handle with their biceps, like with a bicep move, especially on the cut. We're talking like more recreational or amateur skiers, and that's where we see a lot of this.
Yeah.
But that's where
Yeah. Sorry. I see the arm. You finish yours thing, and
I was going to say, I think pulling the biceps in and doing like some sort of handle curl to get control has created situations where people get, chest forward, butt back, and their weight back, and inefficient. That's the least ideal body position, and where thinking about longer arms, straighter, and kind of controlling or like having your arms by your sides, by your core, tends to be a good cue, but that's how I think about it, and that's how the physics kind of makes sense, but you have a different way, and I think that's just as valid.
Yeah, no, because it goes back to a few years ago. I was just frustrated with my skiing. I'm like, I've hit a roadblock. I can't improve. I can do the score, but very inconsistently. It's like something's got to change, so you question conventional wisdom. And for me, if you're bending on your arms, that just basically means you're looking for balance. Like you're not supported, you're not. So I think of that as more of a rotational thing. So you've either got to be more closed off or more open, whichever way it is, to get that balance back, left hand, right hand, to feel like you can then drive into a position of confidence.
Yeah, and stance or good body position.
Yeah, and good body position, and it's. I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot involved with just those simple concepts. You kind of.
What you're going to say? One more thing. What was it? Or you had an idea?
Well, it's always been you got to relax your arms, and that I think that's true. Out of the buoy into the first wake until you cross center line, then the whole world changes again. Mm-hmm. Because you got to think about it. The picture from the buoy to the wakes. That's the drive. That's your dad pushing you down on the swings. Yep. You generate energy. And then as soon as you cross that center line, then it's like, okay, I've got to deal with this energy. Yep. And how am I then going to repurpose all this ball of fun, or this ball of power that I've built up? How am I going to get to an appropriate spot at the buoy to then create a rotation at the next buoy?
Yep.
So for the longest time for me, it's like you got to keep your arms straight. And you just got to like plant on your back shoulder and then just ski 20 feet in front of the buoy and then pray, essentially.
Now what is it? Now where's your thinking?
Now it's, I'm essentially trying to race myself to get to the buoy. So it's how quick can I get up the side of the boat? And
race yourself. What does that mean? Like race your feet, race your ski, race the handle?
When I feel like I have it dialed really well, I feel like I'm second wake, I'm like trying to jump at the buoy. And it's, if you're on the right path, so essentially like the same swing as the handle and the space stays the same the whole way up the arc towards the side of the boat, there's very little load, and you kind of have this sense of calm on your body.
Yep.
And that's essentially what I'm trying to get there. Whereas I'll see a lot of people, they're still fighting for angle, still fighting for direction.
Through that point and past.
To that point and past. Yeah.
I'm just writing a note because next time we talk, I want to talk about, I consider that the outbound swing phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to get into that. But
we can get into that another time.
Yeah. That's because I think that's the most underserved, underutilized section. I think that's the weakest link in most skiers.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to how we've been drilled our whole life. You know, it's always been, if in doubt, go harder. You know, like if you're not making the pass, it's because you're wussing out and you're not committed enough on the second wake.
Yeah.
You obviously don't have enough space before the buoy. You're obviously not committed enough, or your arms are too bent, or like just all these words.
All these weird things.
Yeah, all these weird things that get thrown around, and I speak to my friends and they'll call me and just talking about technique or whatever it is, and it's just like, well, you've got to essentially try and do the exact opposite of what you're trying to do to get the goal you're actually trying to get. You know, like people find themselves in this dilemma, or what would the word be?
Yeah, it's like it's a pickle.
Dichotomy.
They're trying to do one thing, but they're approaching it almost backwards in a way.
Yeah,
they're self-defeating.
Yes, they are very, very self-sabotaging, and I did it for the longest time. Honestly,
me too.
I mean, I could get 3 every day of the week, but I could not turn 3, and the only reason I could get 3 is because I could turn 2 so hard, and essentially throw the damn thing out there.
Yeah,
you know, and then I'd take a narrow gate, so I knew I'd be guaranteed to have the load without too much speed off the second wake into 1.
Yep.
So I'm going to get rotated at 1. I'm going to hook up, blast it at 2. You got to turn, you got to go hard, you got to get all the angles so you can be early for 3. But then you're in this race. You're just in this cycle of speed. Yeah.
Difficult.
Was there for a long time.
But
trying to get out of it. Yep.
But that leads to the next topic.
There's hope.
There is hope. That leads me to the next topic, because I want to finish off what you just said there and lead into the next topic, which is getting better with age. Is it possible? What tools do you think people need to actually help make that a reality?